So they want us, you see, are you all seeing the instruction CXC left there? Using a calculator, right? Do not go and stress yourself to do this unless you had that stellar mathematical ability where you can and you work out that, right? But once you see you need to perfect it, or once you need to work it out, use your calculator, right? Let me go. So what we getting for the numerator here?
40.5.
40.5 divided by
4.05.
4.05, and my answer would be 10.
10.
Question done. Yeah, and I right now I feeling hot, boy. Right, let me go next. Find the value of 3.9 tan 18 correct to 1 decimal place. Hit man. What we getting? 1 decimal place. Straight calculator. Point a note. Andrew, make sure your calculator is on degrees. Please. Make sure above the display, you're seeing DEG, or some calculators just have a D. Right? Make sure your calculator is on degrees. What we getting here? To 1 decimal place. 1.3. Everybody good there? All right, let me go to the wages question. Ria is paid at a rate of $13.50 per hour. During a certain week, she worked 40 hours. How much did she earn in that week? What kind of dog food is this? Right? So this will be a basic, I will call it a basic wage. Right? So the basic wage for that 1 week will be, give me the working. What am I doing?
Hourly rate multiplied by
$13.50 multiplied by how much hours? $40. What are we getting here, my children? Basic wage.
540.
540, proper thing. All right, let's work. All right, let me see what bacchanal go on here now. So Ria worked 4 weeks in the month of August. So basically her basic wage will be 4 multiplied by this bad boy up here. That'll be her basic wage, right? Because she worked for 4 weeks. And her gross earnings was this. So this is what she earned grossly. Her regular week comprised of 40 hours and overtime was paid at time and a half the hourly rate. Show that Ria worked 15 hours overtime in August. The first thing I go and find is her basic wage for the 4 weeks, right? How did I say we calculated that? The basic wage for the 4 weeks. What am I multiplying? 540 multiplied by 4, which will give me how much is the basic wage for the 4 weeks?
2160.
2160. Boom. That's the basic wage for the 4 weeks, right? The next thing I need to calculate is her overtime hourly rate, right? So how much was she working for in basic time? Her hourly rate for her basic wage was what? $13.50. Now, overtime is paid at time and a half. So that'll be 1.5 times the basic hourly rate, right? So how much is she working for per hour in overtime?
$20.25.
20 how much?
$20.25.
Right, boom. Everybody good there so far? So she's working for more money in overtime as opposed to normal time. The next thing I'm going to find is coming into play. Right. So I want to find out my overtime wage, right? Overtime wage. How would I find out that by? How much did I work for the, what was my gross earnings for the week? What was my gross earnings for the week? Right? What was my basic earnings for the week? I'm balling for the week, it's of 4 weeks, right? Right? So how would I find the base, well, the overtime wage? What would I have to do? Subtract. Hey, that we talk
minus.
About. How we talk about. Very good, guys. 2463.75 minus the 2160. How much money am I working for in overtime? How much did I make for that week in overtime? Anybody?
$303
Yeah.
and 7 cents.
And how much? 75 cents?
75, yeah.
Right, proper thing. Right, proper thing. Send that down. Right, that's my overtime wage. Now I have my overtime hourly rate. I have my overtime wage. What can I do to find how much hours I work for? My overtime hours. How would I find that? How you all think? What I have to do? I want to know how much hours I do to make that 303.75. Divide.
Divide.
Ooh, that's functioning today, boy. 303.75 divided by the 2025. And what am I getting here? How much hours overtime did I
15
do?
hours.
15 hours. And now what the access to show? Box to indicate that it was shown. And right, show that Ria worked 15 hours overtime. No problem, Chelsea. I get a message here in August. Right, proper thing. Anybody need to write? No? Yeah? Well, yeah, look, some people online. Right, in August, 20% of Ria's gross earning was deducted as tax. How much money does she have after the deduction, right? So Kyle was asking it earlier, the gross earnings would have been what she had after the overtime, right? So I want my deduction, right? So let me call it tax. Tax will be equal to 20 over 100 multiplied by what was the gross earnings again? 246,375. How much you getting there? 20% of that.
487.75.
487.75. Everybody good there? That is her tax, right? How much money does she have after the deduction? That's the tax. So let's calculate the money after deduction. Money.
So,
So yeah, something else for that.
yeah, different answer.
Sir, I get 492, sir.
492.1.
75. Yeah, that's it.
Hey. 492.75, right? So money after deduction. Right? So what am I minusing? $2,463.75 minus the $492.75. How much money I have after the government take the tax?
1970.
1,907. How much? 71. No, that's 00. Right?
Okay.
That's how much money the government leave us with, right? So let me go. Ria invested $219 of her earnings for 3 years at a rate of 4.5%, right?
So,
Per annum, simple interest. Somebody saying something?
so you have to work the 20%.
Yes, you would. So like if you're working 80%, like part of your working will be like 80 minus, not 80, sorry. It will be 100 minus 20 would be like your first working, right? So 100 minus 20 would give you 80%, right? And then you roll into your answer. Cool?
Right.
You would get the same answer. Right. So reinvested 219 of her earnings for 3 years at a rate of 4.5 per annum simple interest. How much interest does she receive after 3 years? Who can hit me the simple interest formula, boy? Write it in red. Simple interest is equal to principal. How I spell pal so boy? Plal. Principal. Somebody else seen it? By rate. By all over 100. Proper thing. Right? So let's work. Principal would be the money invested or the money borrowed, right? So your principal will be what here? 219. My rate would be how much percent? How much percent it is? And my time, which is always going to be in years, meaning like if they say 6 months, that'll be half a year. Time is always in years, right? So my time would be 3. Right? All over 100. Let's go. What my answer would be here? What's my simple inches? Oh Lord, Father. What's the simple inches?
Sir, I got 0.0.
Nah, this right. Actively work out the top first, press equal, and then divide by 100. What again? 29 point something?
So I get 29.56.
But it's 5-7, sir. Yeah, around it all. 5-7.
So 5-7. 5-7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. $29.57 would be her interest after 3 years. Right, let's hit the next one. We are 30 minutes. Let's see if we can factorize completely, right? So if we factorize and we are looking for the HCF of 3n squared and 15np, right? What is the HCF of 3n squared and 15np? Talk to me.
3.
Look at the numbers first. What's the HCF of 3 and 15? 3. What letter is common in both terms? N. So I train you all to always take out the lowest power of n. So you have n squared and then you have n to the first power, taking out the lower power of n, which is n to the first power, right? Right. So this 3n now needs to be divided into this and into this. So 3 into 3 cancels. N into n squared would leave me with n proper thing. 3 into 15 is n into n cancels and you remain with p. Everybody good there? That's my complete factorization. 2 marks in the bag. Right? The diagram below shows a quadrilateral with the lengths of its sides written in terms of x, right? So you have each side expressed as an expression, right? Write an expression in terms of x for the perimeter of the quadrilateral. Express your answer in its simplest form. So let me start. You started from one side and you're going around. By the way, what does perimeter mean? Total distance around. We add in every expression. So let's go. P to represent perimeter will be equal to, start with 1. We'll start with 15 minus 2x plus what's next? 3x minus 7. Okay, that's the next one. Plus 2x plus 5 plus what? What's the last one? 2x minus 1, right? They said to write it in its simplest form, so you must simplify it. We can only add or subtract what type of terms? So, let me do the numbers. So, since there's 15 in front here, so you have 15 minus 7 is what? 15 minus 7 will give me, I'll put in all the numbers together. 15 minus 7, then what next? Plus 5, then minus 1. Those are the numbers. Now, let's deal with the x's. You have minus 2x here. Then plus 3x, then plus 2x, then another plus 2x. Let's work. What would P be equal to? 15 minus 7 plus 5 minus 1 is what? What y'all getting there? 15 minus 7 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. 13 minus 1 is 12, right? Negative 2 plus negative 2x plus 3x will give you 1x. 1x plus 2x is 3x. 3x plus 2x will give me 5x. This here is the perimeter of my quadrilateral in its simplest form. Everybody good there? I do not this part here one time, right? They said, let's set up this. Right. They came here and said that the perimeter of the quadrilateral is actually 32. So P is actually 32, right? Find the length of the longest side of the quadrilateral, right? So in order to find the longest side of the quadrilateral, we actually have to find x first. Everybody agrees? Okay? Can I use this value of the perimeter and the expression that I used above to form an equation? Can we do that? Form an equation which can be used to find x. So who can tell me what that equation would look like? Excellent. Excellent. 12 plus 5, which is what P is in the part before. 12 plus 5x is equal to 32. This is what we use to find the value of x. Point to note, this is plus 12, right? When you carry plus 12 on the side, what it becomes? So 5x is equal to 32 minus 12. 5x is equal to 20. What do we do with this 5 now? Huh? We divide. Excellent. We carry the 5x there and we divide. So x is equal to 20 divided by 5. X is equal to 4. Right? But this is still not what the question asks for. What the question asks us to do. Right. Find the value of the longest side. So we just have x now. So let me just go and look. Let me pick the quadrilateral to see which side is the longest side, right? We're going to pick the quadrilateral. Which side is the longest side here? It's obvious. Which one is the longest side? 2x plus 5, right? Going back down. So let's put therefore, dot, 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 hold on. Therefore, the longest side is 2x plus 5, but remember that x is 4, so it'll be 2 by 4 plus 5, which will give me what? How much centimeters is the longest side? 4 2s are 8 plus 5 is 13 centimeters. Yeah, bro?
I work out all of them individually and I get 15 plus 2x to be the longest side.
15 plus 2x?
Yeah.
It's not plus 2x, it's 15 minus 2x. So that would not be the longest side. But remember, they did not say the diagram is not drawn to scale, right? So we could look at it and see which one the longest side is. And the question is only 2 marks. They ain't paying you all that money to go and work out all that. Well, paying you with so much marks. The 2 marks again is one to calculate for and one to work out the sale. That what you did, bro, is too much marks, too much working for 2 marks, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I just figured that how it wasn't drawn to scale, the better thing.
No, but they did not put that. They did not put not drawn to scale. So we could assume that the longest side, visually the longest side is the one that looking the longest, right? Everybody good there? Anybody else? So this is part C, right? The hint is work inequalities. Did I put hint? Hint. Right. Work inequalities separately when they give you like this, right? Right? Okay. And number 2 is inequalities are solved just, well, not just that, similar to equalities, which are normal equations. Right? The only thing that changes is inequality. An inequality. Write on these red, please. Write on my little notes. Okay. All right, that's an inequality sign changes when we divide by a negative number. All right? When we divide by a negative number. All right? So So I'm breaking up the inequality to two inequalities. So you're all here, right? We have -1 is less than 2 minus 4x over 3, which is less than 5, right? You could split this up into two inequalities. When I say solve separately, this is what I mean, right? Okay? The first one will be -1 is less than 2 minus 4x all over 3. All right? 2 minus 4x all over 3. And the other one, so that's like the first half. The other one would be 2 minus 4x over 3 is less than 5. Work it like if it's a normal equality, right? I give you only 1 minute. Go.
Of course.
Let's go. Right, so let me work the one on the left first. Now, the first thing you have to move here, it's like the 3 has the 2 minus 4x captive. So you had to move this 3. So just as if that inequality was an equality, when you carry 3 to this side, you do the opposite of divide, which is 2. What's the opposite of divide? So if you divide 3 on the right, you're going to multiply it on the left. So this will be -1 multiplied by 3 is less than 2 minus 4x. Everybody good there? -1 multiplied by 3 will give me what? -3. My +3 is -3, right? And this will be less than 2 minus 4x. What's the next thing I need to move here? What we moving next? Leave the x on the right. That's something I should have told you all because we need to write out our inequality. After actually you can carry it to the left, you know. Let's carry it. If I carry this -4 here, right? This -4x here, so that it will become positive, and carry this -3 here, right? That's the switch I'm making. So I'm putting +4x here now, less than, you put the 2 here, -3 will become what? -3 will become what when it goes to the right? +3. So 4x would be less than 5. Everybody good there? What am I doing with the 4 now? What am I doing with the 4? Huh? 5 subtract 4? Kia, you was here, sister. Multipliers understood between the 4 and the x, the opposite of multipliers to? Right? So x is less than 5 over 4 there. Let's write, I want to write it as an improper fraction. Sorry, as a mixed number. So 4 into 5 is 1, remainder 1, so 1 1/4. Right? Let me jump on the next side now. Let me jump on this bandwagon here. Same thing. You're moving this 3. When I carry 3 here, what do I do to it? What do I do with 3 when I carry it to the right? Multiply. So less than 5 multiplied by 3. 2 minus 4x is less than 15. What do I do? I'm moving it 2 first, right? Or I can move the 4 now, the 4x. That's to make it positive, right? Because when you divide a negative number with inequalities, things has changed, right? So I carry the 4x here, and I bring in the 15 here. This positive 15 will become -15. So you'll have 2 minus 15 is less than minus 4x will become plus 4x on this side. 2 minus 15 would be -13, right? -13 is less than 4x, right? When I carry the 4 here, what do I do with it? Huh? What? Divide. So this will be -13 divided by 4 is less than 4x. All right? Everybody good there? So 4 into -13 will be what? That will be 3. -3 1/4 is less than 4. Not 4x. Right? Now, I solved my 2 inequalities separately. Right? The question asked us to determine all the integer values of x which satisfies this inequality, right? So we're looking for all the integer values. So we need to bring these 2 together. So what's something? I put x in the middle, right? Okay, x in the middle. So what's something? If x is less than 1 1/4, and then negative 3 1/4 is less than x, right? That means that negative 3 1/4 is the least point. Negative 3 1/4 is the least point. Negative 3 1/4 would be less than x, and this x would now be less than the greatest number for x to be would be 1 1/4, right? Or the greatest fraction, right? Saying it again, right? If x is less than 1 1/4, it means x is a number less than 1 1/4, and then negative 3 1/4 is less than x. So that means it is to the right, the left of x, right? Now the question asks us, rolling back up to the question, determine all the integer values. So we actually looking for whole numbers, right? So what will be all the integer values that, so I'll put therefore the integer values would be, right? So what we started with, if negative 3, if I go on the number line, right? What's the number line? Because I feel all in seen this. You have 0 in the middle, right? Negative 3 1/4 is here, then 1 1/4 is somewhere here, right? X is somewhere in between here. So what are the integer values it could be, which would be like, yeah, 0 is an integer value, your negative numbers will be an integer value. We're not looking for no fractions. So what is the next integer value that comes to the right of this 3 1/4? What comes here? Anybody knows? Negative 3. Excellent. Negative 3. Then you have what? Negative 2. And then you have, put this kind of negative 1. Let me write it a little better. All right? Let's put it a little bit. Right. So these are the integer values. Right. Negative 3. And then here, after 0 be what between 0 and 1 1/4? What's the integer value here? 1. So, what are the integer values that are between negative 3 1/4 and 1 1/4? Call them out. Negative, let me start with negative 3. Negative 3 was negative 2, then negative 1, then 0, then 1. Right? Did they say set? All right, they just ask you to write it down. Determine all that satisfy inequality. These are all the values that satisfy all the integer values that satisfies the inequality above, right? I know some of you all need to write, so let's write. We'll have to stop here though. I want to define what an integer is because you will see this word being thrown around, and I want to make sure you all know what an integer is, right? So note, an integer is any whole number, right? Positive or negative. Positive or negative. So anytime you see this word being thrown around, integer, you know what we're talking about, right? Negative. You ain't had our phone next week, eh? I'll let you know. You ain't had our phone next week. Right? An integer is any whole number, positive or negative, right? Without fractions or decimals. Without fractions. Without fractions. Or decimals. Right? That is what an integer is. Very, very important. Right? So we'll continue next week.